Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
So, welcome to Paranormal Karen. Ryan and I are ready. Folks, join the Patreon. Definitely join my email list, especially if TikTok is going away, which I don't think it is. But anyways, join my email list. I am booking all over the place now, and that is the best way to know where I am. It's on my website. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Excuse me, or TikTok with all the, I'm not taping over. I'm just going to burp into the microphone. Keep going. That's how it is. Okay. So you guys, this is Everybody Loves Predictions episode and Ryan together. It starts the year off with a kick. We're in the last week of December, and Ryan, I'm already like, we're not even there. And I'm like 2025, where shall you begin?
Oh my gosh, so many places. I'm happy to report it is a whole different vibe. Like, we have had more of the same. The last, 5 years at least. And this is kickstarting really a whole new 5-year mass change unlike anything we've ever seen. So I'm sad to report more unprecedented changes.
You started out so positive, like, here's the good news, and then I was that's not good news.
No, it is. It's different. It's so different than anything we've seen, like in the nation's history, honestly, in like world history, as far as like we can really remember. Some of the stuff that's happening or starting next year and extends to like 2030 is stuff we haven't seen since BC times, like Bronze Age, when they invented weapons. Not that hopefully we don't just like revolutionize our weaponry and that's all that comes out of it. But there's really, really big stuff happening that's like very exotic astrology, I would say. So I'm excited ultimately, and really, I think 2025 is a nice taste of it. Like, I was gonna call the year quiet explosions, because I think there's explosions happening all over the place, but like a lot of people might not hear them because it's like controlled explosions.
Okay.
Like people really experimenting with new stuff, and it maybe not fully breaking into public consciousness in 2025 yet, but 2026, 2027 is like, those are the 2 years where we are really gonna be certain about where our future is headed, probably for the rest of our lifetimes. And I will get good taste of it next year for sure. But I think next year I'm kind of calling the year Anchor in the Ether, which as my Gemini self always does, it's like got numerous meanings to it. In that, like, I think the biggest one, I can explain it astrologically kind of as we go into some of the big things, but on an overarching sense, I think it's like a flip of staying grounded. Like, everybody always says, we got to stay grounded, right? Like, and that's important, of course. But I think there's so much crap happening like on the ground right now that what's gonna be more important is how we stay spiritually aligned. Like, to stay grounded or centered or have a clear direction and purpose, we kind of need to throw an anchor into the more spiritual space. And I think a lot of people are going to be figuring out new ways to do that, like totally new ways of integrating spirituality into the real world, like anchoring the ether in, versus like getting too lost in the ethers, which I think is normally the problem.
That's where I live. I live in the ethers. I'm not kidding. Grounded is a very hard place for me. So do you mean when you say that it would be like sometimes people will say to me, I work for a prescription company, so I'm part of the problem. And I'm like, I don't think you're part of the problem, because you're taking care of yourself and you're bringing light to a place that is dark. Will it be more like some of these companies might on their own decide to be better? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't think it'll be on their own.
maybe a few more CEOs have to hit the pavement for us to.
Yeah, that's the idealistic side. That's where like maybe they're like that thinking. If anybody's thinking that, I think that's where like, okay, maybe you need to like stay rooted in the ground here. But
Okay.
like I think more than anything, it's like that there is more of a um feeling of tangible spiritual ideals or principles or morals kind of coming into the picture for a lot of people. And I think that that will kind of spur demand for change. You know, I mean, I don't hate to say it actually, but like the United Healthcare CEOs, pew
Right?
pew, like that has caused a mass public kind of consciousness of demanding serious change, and I think that that events like that can be a catalyst for more systemic changes to take
Yeah,
place.
you can't say I want to see someone shot, but you also can say, I feel like there's no justice right now, and that for a lot of people felt like I had to laugh. Andrea Mitchell on the news goes, "Well, we all know how frustrating it is when the insurance company puts you on hold, but we shouldn't be killing people." And I was like, "You think that's what people are mad at?" So at least, yeah, I don't know. Somebody will be mad no matter what you say, but I'm not. I think it changed everything. He changed our timeline.
It changed everything. It's wild to see people say like this, violence is never the answer when like I'm a very progressive person and I like actually studied violent protest in college. It was a huge passion of mine, mainly because not that I never partook in it, don't worry, but just I was fascinated by the fact that like throughout history, things don't change until something turns violent. That's when it's the threshold moment. We don't ever uplift the violent heroes. We always uplift the non-violent heroes. The violent ones are thrown in prison, right? And then they're not in the history books. But it really is like at a certain point, non-violence or pacifism protects the state. It protects the powers that be that are very clearly dying out now. So we might see more of that stuff, but but there's like a higher principle to it. You know what I mean? Like, was there not such a spirit? Didn't you kind of gasp a bit when you saw that etched in the bullet was that like deny, defend, whatever? And I mean that it's just like there's a reason. There's a more purposeful execution, for lack of better words.
It wasn't a guy that went nuts in a crowd. It was a guy that was like, "Hey, you're not fixing this." He thought you can say or was right, whatever you want, but he thought he was doing something good.
Yes, yeah. So that's like, I mean, I don't know that violence potentially. I don't know that violence will continue to be this like thing that causes change, but I just think that there's going to be a bigger kind of another wave of like spiritual awakenings happening essentially.
Yeah.
You know how like 2012 was a big part of that, like, and it felt like a ton of people woke up in 2012. This is going to be an echo of that. That coincided with Neptune moving into Pisces. That's when all of a sudden like astrology and tarot and all this stuff kind of started really becoming mainstream. And now Neptune's about to move into Aries, and so is a bunch of stuff, and that's going to be very different. Like it's a very individualized version of spirituality, but I like it because rather than like getting swept up in a collective and like kind of cults kind of vibe happening that's been going on lately, I think a lot of people are going to be kind of feeling like individually guided by something bigger than themselves, whether they can define it or not. It's like personal for them. So rather than it being like some sort of big collective movement, it's like the collective movement happens because a lot of individuals are finding some sort of like anchor to throw out into a spiritual space, and they're living their own lives by very different spiritual ideals.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too. I think where I'm worried about it, I'm not going to lie, but where I'm worried about it is honestly in like the practitioners, the current ways we're doing things. I hope that things don't dissipate. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but like I know in astrology at least, like it's always had waves, 60s and 70s it had a wave, then it really went into hiding again. And then now we've had a really big wave for over a decade, and I'm like, this might push it. I don't know that it's going to go away into hiding, but I think as people discover more of like what works for them individually, I don't know that I think it's going to be harder for practitioners to offer like a blanket service that seemingly works for anybody, you know? I think solutions are going to be much more customized and tailored between people and a practitioner, or people and brand, people and company. That's true across the board, but I do worry a bit about like kind of the old guards, I guess, of like spiritual practice. The new waves are coming in.
Yeah, some people were talking about that, like intuition. People will be relying more on their intuition, and that's good. But I also think there's always a like if blatantly I'm not worried about my business, because also practitioners, you know, like somebody always does need help. There's enough, but I think even when people are enlightened, there's a lot of, am I right on this? Am I doing this right? But I also think what you're saying, I think what we're all doing is about to streamline or change.
Yeah.
There's new information, new things people are going to be doing.
Yeah. And like for me, like I've been really thinking about this. I think for me, it's like, as far as concerning the anchor, a big part of this too, the anchor in the ether feeling is that Saturn and Neptune are coming together at the very beginning of Aries, which is the whole start of the zodiac. So they're leaving Pisces, the end of the zodiac, entering Aries together. That is, Neptune is spirituality and imagination and fantasy and ideals and miracles, all this intangible stuff. But Saturn brings the intangible into physical form, physical reality. So it's kind of like a, if you can dream it, you can do it thing. So I think there's a need to like create a more workable form, a practical spirituality. And so for me, I'm really focusing on 2025 being a year where I don't just like see a client and give them a reading and say, here's all the energies in your chart, you know?
Right.
And then they leave and I send them a recording. Like I'm going to give them homework, you know? I want them to work with this, like have actual practical application for what I am giving them, you know? I think that's going to be kind of something that's important. And I think we're going to see weird blends of this sort of stuff. Like, I don't know, somebody who's learning how to take astrology and turn it into a taekwondo practice, you know? I mean, like weird stuff.
Yeah.
I just think people are going to find new niches that are going to work for them.
I kind of love that. Maybe like astrology and how you should be eating. I think that could be a thing too, you know?
Oh, yeah. And that's like, there's like Ayurvedic practices that do that, but it's like a lot of people in the Western world don't practice Ayurveda, you know? So there's a market for that for sure.
Yeah. And also, I do feel like, and I try to do this, I try to encourage this on my predictions podcast, is I think people, I always want my psychics to go out on a limb and say, this is going to happen and this isn't going to happen. I think more of that rather than just be happy kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh my God, no, totally. No, I got some of those too, for sure. I think it's just going to be like, even just the ways we engage with brands and products that we consume. I think it's going to be part of it's AI, part of it's this math, like sense of individuality coming into the picture, but in a healthier way. I think we've had a really unhealthy, hyper individualized focus lately. And I think that people are going to be kind of harnessing it in a healthier way now. But like, I think of like, you know, there's like Neutrogena or something. You can like go to their website and fill out a 16-question form and then get your customized skincare routine. But it's not really that customized. It's like there's like X amount of products they really send out, you know? I think that there's going to be more of a weird like co-creative thing going on between individual consumers and large companies. And how can we, rather than manufacture a bunch of like the same product or the same service, how can we manufacture personalization, you know, and that being a challenge for companies that are actually going to thrive in the future.
Well, I even feel like I think the independent or the individualization, very few people over the last couple of years have been like, I met someone, and I can always see someone coming, you know, at some point. I don't always put a time on that, but I think especially if we were stuck in our stuff, people gave up. people are done with apps. And I feel like, although I did put this in mind, the thing now to meet a mate, you have to be present in the conversation, because we weren't really doing that. We were kind of looking for, he has to have this and she has to look like this and blah, blah, blah. And that ain't going to cut it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think that's totally coming into the picture. I'm seeing a lot of people who were like swearing off relationships all of a sudden getting interested in it again. And I just saw a study about how Gen Z of any generation is the generation most interested in monogamy, which you'd think would be opposite, that it's getting more and more open and fluid and like free for all. But that's not true. And I think it's because they now have been conditioned by this like free for all society where they're realizing there's not a lot of substance or accountability to that or something. And they are wanting like a person and willing to embrace like their brokenness. And I think that like there's the growth in that together, right? Like there's so much to that. So I'm excited for that. I'm seeing that too. Like I've been very much like, I am not in a life position where I am ready for a relationship, but then they've just been knocking. Like they've just like, I've had a few that I've like very much had to reject. But I'm like, how much longer can I do that? You know?
I don't know, Ryan, you're pretty hot, and I'm not kidding. You're a hot looking guy, and I think they're always going to be there, no matter how you bat them away.
God. Oh man. Well, thank you very much. I needed that. Thank you.
Yes. And you are, and I feel like you're exactly, you know, it's weird, but arranged marriages worked out better than regular marriages because the expectation was different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to be arranged, but yes.
No, but it's like people figuring out their own individual arrangements now, right? Like what works for me and what works for you, and we'll compromise where we can because we see the value in being together, and that the rules we make right now can change, you know? So I think that we're going to see more relationship coming into the picture. It's also such a myth that divorce rates have actually been on the decline, which I think is really interesting. I thought that they were like on the increase, but they're not. But also marriage, like traditional marriage, the engagement with the institution of marriage has also been on the decline. So it kind of makes sense that divorce rates are declining too.
Right. And I think that was COVID. COVID did that. You were in the house with this person forever, and that was the decider.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Anchor in the Ether is kind of like my like theme for the year.
Awesome. And you know what? Hold on one second. We're at a perfect spot for a break. Folks, we will be right back with more from Ryan's Astrology.
Hi, everybody. Do you love everything paranormal, supernatural, or otherwise spiritual?
Well, of course you do. You're listening to Paranormal Karen.
If you like some humor sprinkled into your morning commute or wherever you listen to your podcast, we don't judge. We've got the most fantastic paranormal podcast for you.
I'm Dana.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Megan. We'd love for you to join us at Supernormal on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcast fix.
Trust us, it's weird, it's wild, and a whole lot of fun.
I'm not weird, you're weird.
All right, keep going, my friend.
Yes. So I think the biggest thing that's happening next year is that every single outer planet, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, are in brand new signs in 2025. It's a big deal when any of them change signs. Technically, Pluto's been in and out of Aquarius already, and now it's firmly in Aquarius as of November 19th. But 2025 is the first full year where it's in Aquarius and it's not leaving for 20 years. So we're really finally in the Pluto and Aquarius era. But on top of that, we have Neptune and Saturn together moving into Aries, which is, so profound, the symbology of that, like leaving the end of the zodiac and moving into a brand new cycle of the zodiac is wild to me.
Okay, I have to say, and this might be, my moon is in Aries, and I am not crazy Aries. So all three of the guys on Ghost Adventures are Aries. And that I think of Zach when I think of an Aries, and I think of my worst qualities, like him and yelling, "Where is it? Come get me, demon." And it's like, no, that's how I think of Aries. So, so be clear on that before it scares me.
Yeah, Aries is like, I mean, this is going to be interesting. Like, in my mind, the way I'm really viewing it is more like new life. Like, it's just new life. Like, Aries is developmentally the baby that's just been born. So it's like full potential. Like,
Oh, good.
I don't know what's coming next, but I've got the will to live. Like, it's kicking and screaming its way through everything. So, and it gets beginner's luck energy. So we're going to make mistakes. It makes dumb, stupid mistakes because it has no experience. But I think that's like all this big new energy that's coming in. Like, if we take it with Pluto and Aquarius, like, that's aliens, basically. Like, I was talking about this in August. I did a big workshop, and like it was a workshop for business focused stuff, but the last slide, I just put up a big slide. I had like 5 minutes left, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I just said aliens.
How can we market it to aliens?
Yeah. Well, no, it was more like, just like, I'm not even saying that alien. I don't even think that in 2025 we're going to get contact with aliens. I really don't. I think while Pluto's in Aquarius for the next 20 years, that's happening. I just do. And whatever that means, like, there could be any new form of sentient life that we don't currently register, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's more about the idea of disclosure and whistleblowing. That is such an Aquarius situation. And we're already seeing that. Obviously, there's this mass drone wave. Aquarius rules things that fly in the sky. So go figure, we're seeing all these drones and orbs and weird stuff in the sky right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that things like that are opening people's minds to possibility, which I think is really important. But I think that the whistleblower energy of Aquarius is really going to be coming online, and this idea of access to information, disclosure. Why is the government still gatekeeping stuff? Like that energy is now officially behind us. And so the demand for new equal access to this knowledge is going to do nothing but increase. And then I think like a lot of that is also like how much things are just going to change, and why I do think like over the next, I think it'll be like in the next decade, we'll get confirmation of new life. Essentially, that's this Aries energy kind of coupling with the Aquarius for me is like, it's new life, like Saturn making it real, physical, and Neptune kind of having this otherworldly influence. I just think that conversation's only beginning right now, and it's going to increase over the next 2.5 years. We'll see a lot of it, and then I think over the next decade we'll probably have some sort of like serious confirmation of life beyond what we know. And the ways that I put up aliens as my slideshow, because I'm like, it's less about like, oh, first contact with new alien life, and more like what that does to the way we live, how that will change so much of what we know, like our technology. Will we get access to new technology and reverse engineer an alien spaceship if we're not already doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the ways we conduct business, religious institutions, like everything will change fundamentally by having aliens like become a topic of conversation. So, or let alone, be confirmed.
Well, that's my big prediction that I bled over, which is why all these celebrities are going Christian or Catholic, is the Catholics are going to try and say, the answers are here about the aliens. And it's like, no, they're not. But they're like, if you're afraid, go to church and you're going to be fine. I think that is coming. But, a lot of Catholics think their whole belief system will be done away with, or they'll freak out if there's aliens. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think it needs to be very different than, the starseed approach, where it's like, we're the aliens, like we're from other dimensions and stuff. And like, maybe. But I think that to actually enact the change is kind of needed. I think we need some sort of confirmation of life outside of this world that we know. And I think that's going to transpire. So Pluto's in Aquarius, Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries. Huge. Aries, not just being indicative of new life, fresh breath, like there's a whole new cycle. And Neptune and Saturn only meet like once every 35 years about. The fact that they're meeting at the very beginning of Aries is just incredibly symbolic of, wow, this is like a huge societal change, like new epoch beginning stuff. And then Uranus is a little later in the year in July going to enter Gemini. And that is so exciting. I'm so glad it's getting out of Taurus. Like, Taurus hates change. Uranus is the planet of sudden change. So it has been very uncomfy for the last like 8 years in Taurus. So bad.
Feeling hopeless and feeling powerless.
Yeah, when there's the clear need for change, you know, and like the ones that did change a system or try to break something that's outdated kind of get reprimanded for it. Uranus is a rebel. So now it's like got much more freedom moving into Gemini. It's only going to be in Gemini for a little bit next year. But then 2026 is when all these planets are going to firmly be in their new signs. We'll get a good taste of it. But Uranus and Gemini, the last time that happened 80 years ago, was such a mass explosion of information systems, information and communication technology, libraries. Like, people relied on libraries more for access to information. We all could go, you know, and learn something. It was huge. So, I mean, that's obviously such an outdated way of discussing it now, but we don't know what's going to happen.
It was community. It was funny. I was just saying to my sister today, because we were trying to schedule my mom's doctor's appointments. And I was like, do you realize we were alive when the doctor came to the house?
Yeah.
When it was called a house call. You were too young for that, right?
No, yeah, I was too young, but wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny too, because that's one of my predictions for the other planet that's changing signs is Jupiter. In June 9th, it will enter Cancer, where it'll be for a year. It just changes signs once every year, so that one's not as big of a deal, but we do feel it more personally. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. It's its favorite sign to be in. It doesn't rule it, but we get the best of it. And it's already like the joyful, good planet, you know? So we're getting, especially the second half of next year, like, people are going to feel really cushy and cozy and comfortable and safe, and like we're creating a sense of belonging with Jupiter and Cancer. And I like that. Like, people are going to be finding their little area of life that they feel like they belong in much more. And I think, you know, Cancer ruling the home and home-based practices, the housing market's going to get better. Real estate, any housing-related field, interior design, home organization, home cleaning services, things like that will do well. But then also work from home people, or people who can travel in and out. Cancer is a caretaker and nurturer, so a lot of nurses, doctors have Cancer energy. So this idea of like going in and out of making house calls or being a traveling nurse. Jupiter is a traveler. So I think that those fields doing house calls will actually pick up a lot.
Okay, so, and I'm going to kind of jump around on this for a second, because I felt like the economy was good the first half, and then I felt like it was going to tank in the second. But I think that all balances on if he does his tariff thing or whatever. So are people going to be happy that the election went this way, or ignoring it, or it's not going to be as bad as it seems? Because it seems like it's on the wrong path.
Yeah. So I have a bit of a maybe controversial opinion on this. I actually think the first half of the year will go oddly well. Then the second half, I'm not sure about. Economically, I think the housing market, it could actually, I think it'll do well. Jupiter and Cancer is going to be good for it, but Jupiter also amplifies and balloons things. Also, America is a Cancer. So like, there will be a feeling of like abundance in America during this time, but Jupiter can explode it, so it can be a bubble bursting energy by the end of the year, you know? So it could be like short-lived, instant gratification almost, like get that house when the interest rates are low and you're getting a really good deal or something. But the first half of the year, I'm getting a weird sense because Jupiter's transiting over Trump's sun. He's a Gemini until June. So I think he's going to come off like a little bit better than the rest of the presidency will actually go. I've been personally kind of impressed. Like, I hate to say that. I didn't vote for him. Like,
Right.
not a
Well,
fan. But he, like, even with the drone conversation, did you see the interview he did where he was like, the government knows what's happening. I don't know why they're treating the American people like this. Like, we should just say what's happening. But he doesn't have the authority to, like, disclose information at the current moment. So I'm like, he's giving, I don't know, he's kind of acting a little better than I thought.
oh, well, that's good. I think I think the people he's choosing for his team are a cartoon.
Oh, totally.
And and as usual, women and sexual assault, no one cares. No one's talking about it. So I don't know that I've seen anything like that. I know that a lot of things that he says he's going to do are scaring me, whether it's getting rid of people that are aliens or so maybe I'm missing something, but I'm glad to hear that you feel that way.
Yeah, I do. And I think I'm trying to just remember, especially with astrology, like we can only predict based off historical patterning. His last presidency, like he didn't really do much, to be honest.
Right.
Like he
It was more of a
lot.
neutral. Yeah.
He built 2% of the wall. Like he didn't. So I'm like, and his team, like as much as it's like such a circus. He had such high turnover last time. So the same thing could happen this time.
Right.
I have no idea. But I do think when it comes to like some really interesting social subjects, at least, I don't think he's going to care. The fact that Melania wrote a book where she's like, I'm pro-abortion and he doesn't care is really interesting.
I think that's a political tactic because also when W was in, his wife said that. When George Bush was in, so that's a political tactic where they make sure it's almost like there's these things they do over and over that people don't realize. Like when they say 63% of the country says it's going in the wrong direction. And it's like that number has never changed. It has the country has never thought the country was going in the right direction. So that might be one of those, we'll make the ladies feel better if you say this kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. I don't know. I think the good side of this, obviously this is not what I predicted. I was like really resting on the prediction we did over the summer because so much of it had been called, and then I just didn't look at anything again. I just was like, well, yeah, it looked like Kamala's chart flows better, on election day and still on inauguration day than Trump's. It doesn't mean that was the will of the people,
Right. I had him winning, but I had Gavin Newsom, so it was still timeline jumping. It was still on.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and pay more attention politically. It's just there's so many charts that get involved in an election. Like I could have pulled the chart for every state when it was founded. Like it's like so much. Yeah, I'm curious about how he's going to play out. What I do know is that I found out when we did that last recording is he's got a crazy April. Something is going down with him in April, and I don't know what it is. It could be I think it's a salacious, like really scandalous kind of situation, but whether or not it bites him in the butt or he kind of flies free again is to be seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so the big thing with these outer planets that I'm very excited for, and really why the next 5 years this is active, is that Pluto, Neptune, and Saturn for the first 2.5 years here, and Uranus are all going to be at the beginnings of their respective signs. Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, Uranus in Gemini. Those signs all play very nice together, and the planets are going to be making a triangle in the sky, like without getting too technical. They're making this triangle that is incredibly supportive. It's like a nice day when 3 planets in your chart make this, but these are slow moving outer planets that relate generationally and societally, systemically. So for the next 5 years, we have these mass outer planets bringing in a whole new energy, and they're all working together in like the best possible way.
Awesome.
And yeah, so making this big triangle in the sky, which essentially is like the top of what's called a kite in astrology. And if you just kind of picture a kite, there's that top triangle and then there's the big bottom like triangle, that like kind of goes longer.
Mm-hmm.
So when planets are basically opposite Neptune, so when they're at the very end of Virgo or at the very start of Libra, when they transit over there, they're going to complete the kite formation. And those are going to be really big moments throughout the year when that happens. it'll mostly be in the fall, but I'm very much looking forward to the eclipses that are happening in September, because one of those eclipses will basically be exactly on that kite and complete the kite. That will be a pretty transformative time where I think September is going to really, really show us like what the next 5 years are going to bring. So I think there's a lot of new change coming in. Neptune moves into Aries in March, Saturn moves in May, and then they're both sitting there together through the spring, summer, into the fall. Jupiter enters in June, enters Cancer in June, and then Uranus enters Gemini in July. Between July, all of July basically, and all of August, all the planets are in their new signs. So the kind of pressure cooker feeling is going to be July and August, where I don't even mean pressure cooker. I more so would call it like a gold rush. Like it's a gold rush feeling for new ideas and innovations. And like, we're going to see some really next level stuff coming out over the summer during that time. And then I feel like, you know, some of it's not going to work because it's experimental. We've got this Aries energy of new life and we're making mistakes. But I think September, when the kite completes with the eclipse, I think that's where we're going to really understand like what new things are going to last and actually truly transform society.
So this could be a terrible example, but it could be like, okay, electric cars don't work, but windmill cars work, whatever that would look like. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we'll find things like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I mean, there's so much like it could be a whole new like healthcare breakthrough, you know, because technically it'll be an eclipse at the very end of Virgo, like 29 degrees of Virgo, which is a critical degree. It could be a big scientific education breakthrough, a whole new technology that rolls out in a way that's like allows all of us to kind of participate in it, you know, not be something that's super gatekept. So it's to be seen. It's kind of hard to predict specifically in that instance, like what that's going to be. But I guess like most recently you think of like ChatGPT and how like people didn't even know what that was like a year ago. And now it's like everybody's using it. And it's like, we have no idea still where that's going to go. Or like, I have a friend who works for Apple and I just tried the Apple Vision Pro goggles. I don't care about those. And I think they look hideous and I would never wear them like in public, you know, like they're huge. I finally tried them and was blown away. Like, freaking blown away. I cannot even begin to express like the technology that is in those glasses.
Okay, so I'm not sure, what do they do? I've only seen shots of them, but I haven't even thought about it.
Oh my God. Like it registers, you do like a little mini test and you just kind of look at these dots. So it registers your eye movement and then it kind of pulls up a screen, like a computer screen, and it just knows based off of your eye movements, like, oh, cancel that window out, move this, like go to the next screen. And it like registers your hands. You put them up at first, but then you don't even need to literally move your hands. You can just keep your hands in your lap and somehow it sees your hands. You can just kind of like swipe while your hands are in your lap. Like the fact that it registers your eyeballs to such a specific degree, like there could be like a million buttons on a screen and it sees exactly the one I'm looking at. Like it's nuts to me. But then the immersive experience too, my friend showed me like a video that just showed all like the video capabilities of this. The screen completely covers your whole eyesight. And like I was taken to Africa and literally it looked like a rhino was charging at me. I about fell out of my chair. Like it felt like I was there, like completely felt like I was there. I've never felt such an immersive experience.
Two things. I'm going to pull a negative and a positive on this because all I can think of is that movie WALL-E where everyone
oh my God, I know.
sitting in their
Lazy. I know. I think of that too.
But then again, this could be also like the beginning of entering like what is that called when like in The Fly, when you transport to one place to the other, or like us going between dimensions? It could. And on the other hand, I am very hopeful that someday somebody's going to say, do you have trouble night driving? Put on these.
Right. Oh my God. Well, I know that's crazy. I wonder if that'll be a thing. But like by the time that application would even exist, like we're gonna have all electric cars anyway, like on a grid. Like so nobody's even gonna be driving, will they?
Well, that one of the things I don't know why electric cars don't come up on my radar. Like I don't think about them, and I should,
I
because
don't
I'm
really
like a
either.
little tiny one, which actually the smart cars, which I kind of always made fun of. They are some of the safest. I don't like, you think
Yeah.
they're going to get crushed, but there's a lot of great things about them. But I keep feeling like the driverless car is not good, or it's not going to happen, or it's so far out. But as someone that has trouble seeing at night when I drive, if those glasses worked for that, I would buy them tomorrow.
No, right? I think that would be a huge application for this technology. I don't see why that couldn't happen. The electric cars thing is like odd because I think Gavin Newsom just put in California that by 2035
Yeah.
it's only electric vehicles that can be sold. I think like right now we're still in a kind of uncertain and dangerous era of it, but if everything is on an electric
Right. If they don't
grid,
come up
then
with
it's
something
safe.
better, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the meantime, it's kind of like, I don't know what's wrong. And I also just now like hate Elon Musk, so I don't want to support Tesla. I'm more like Team
Right.
Rivian.
Right. Oh, and that reminds me. Okay, let's take a break and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, Paranormal Karen, what are you doing? Why aren't you taking CBD? Listen to me. P39CBD.com. That's where you want to go. That's where I go. That is where you're going to find the best. P39CBD is committed to providing high quality, premium grade hemp extract products. P39CBD uses organically grown industrial hemp sourced from nutrient abundant soils right here in the USA to ensure a therapeutic rich CBD product. Now, if you're not using them on your pets, go take a look at the website now. CBD, especially for aging pets, is fantastic, and you know how animals react way better to natural products. Get a jump on your holiday shopping and give the gift of health. Give P39 all natural CBD. Use coupon code Karen for 20% off. Order now and get a free gift. Now listen to this list. P39 CBD is non-GMO, lab tested, no pesticides, GMP certified, all natural, family owned and operated business. I couldn't even think of anything to add to that list to make it better. P39CBD.com. Stop by and see what they're all about. And if you're in Arizona, Fountain Hills exactly, make a trip, go in and say hello. Say, I'm a Paranormal Karen listener. 16810 East Ave of the Fountains, Suite 103, Fountain Hills, Arizona. P39CBD.com. Get yours now. Okay, so now sort of the people or the stuff and I apologize to everyone. I didn't give him a list beforehand, which I actually should have, because there's a couple of people like, I'd love to know if Pete Hedgewith is going to get in or RFK, but I do know we both do not like Elon Musk. What do you got on Elon?
Yeah, so I think he's maybe there's already such backlash happening about how front and center he seems to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that won't go away. I kind of feel like in the first half of next year, it'll be much more of a Trump forward situation.
I think he will get frustrated with not being the star as he should, and maybe he'll help us out with pushing Elon back.
Yeah, I hope, at least. I hope. I mean, even like just the old guards in the Republican Party are already annoyed too, and like that's not gonna work.
And I feel like that is the Bennifer, the J-Lo and Ben, where we're all like, why did they get married? Why this isn't gonna last.
Yeah. I know. Like it's such a weird. I know he's putting together the most bizarre administration. Like who's to say what's gonna happen? I do think though, like Elon's a Cancer, and in July, Jupiter will transit over his sun. So I think June, July will be the point where he has like a reemergence into public consciousness and does something that probably seems really good for the country. Whether it's good or not is to be seen, but I feel like he's going to have a really big summer. I don't think the first half of the year, though, will be much for him.
You know, when you were saying how it gets good, this is how I would love to see it get good. First of all, like I have a neighbor that's like, hey, the first day Trump's in office, 20 million illegals are going to disappear. And I was like, how does that happen? And then he stands there and he's like, I don't know. And it's like, So I hope these things, like I just saw, there's a bill up in South Carolina that if a woman gets an abortion, she could be executed. She could get the death penalty. It's only a bill, so I can't believe it's going to go through. But I feel like the part of like the way Jessa describes it, where like, whatever, like we're doing our own thing and we're like either not even watching you or laughing at you. Like I kind of feel like that's, I hope that's when things are better, when there's like, I almost think I don't understand how no government would work, how libertarians think, but like if Trump really didn't have any other power than to make sure the streets were running, that would be great. That would be great.
Oh my God. I know. I do think like what a big prediction I have next year is more of the decentralized systems. And I don't know that like a government can immediately come in and be that. I think it's going to be more of like the people creating companies with decentralized power. And that because we are changing the structures like more bottom up, then the government will naturally move that way eventually. I think that we can show that we can be more self-sustaining and autonomous with the way we run stuff. But I think we got to prove it in our own communities and ways first, I guess. Like there's somebody I know on TikTok who runs a fashion company, but even though she's technically the head of it, like everybody makes the same paycheck, and it's a livable wage in LA. So it's like that's that type of thing where it's like people are doing what they love to do and they're all making the same amount. Like that doesn't diminish competition. I think that's such a myth about like socialism, even that if everybody's getting like, a universal basic income or something, then there's going to be no competition and no innovation. And why would people work? Because socialism still allows for reward systems to be in place. Like you can still make more than that universal basic income, Yeah. Like there's still opportunity for growth for sure.
Well, what would really help that, I think, like I order almost everything from this designer called The Kit, and they make it when you order it. They don't make it beforehand, so you have to wait. And they use, it's very fancy, a little expensive, but I thought I'll have fewer expensive things from them than 200 cheap things from Amazon. But I feel like as like celebrity falls, or as I still can't get over whatever that cup was, that Stanley cup that everybody had to have. And not just women, men have them too. And I think as we move, as people become more independent and not on the next fad, that could help out, so that everybody can make metal cup money, not just that one cup,
Exactly. I think that the only challenge is, I think, in the manufacturing of this stuff. Like, but that's a perfect example. Your kit, like that they make it once you order it. Like it's made to order and it's customized to you. Like the more people figure out how to do that, the better. We just haven't lived in that society for so long. So we've lived in the factory world, right? For so long now of like just pump out the same product and tell everybody that they need it. But now everybody's got different tastes. So it is much more about the quality over the quantity for sure. And I just think the challenge is how do we figure out how to mass print the type of cup they want or whatever,
Right. Or hopefully everybody doesn't want the same cup.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, right. Like, and it's hard. Or if they do, like, how do we have the systems to support that type of demand? Whether there's a lot of demand for one thing or little demand for a lot of things, I don't know. But like, that's, I think, where people are moving. Everybody's got such a personalized sense of style and taste now. And I think that's a cool thing. That's actually a big thing I also have. So it's not just like, Saturn and Neptune are probably the big kahunas making moves next year and over the next few years. But that part of the zodiac, the end of Pisces, the start of Aries, the end of the zodiac and the whole start of the zodiac is the hottest part of the zodiac all of next year. Because not only are Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries, but the North Node on January 11th, which is like really where society is evolving, it's moving from Aries to Pisces. So they move backwards through the signs, the nodes. These are what dictate the eclipses as well. So on January 11th, the North Node switches to Pisces, South Node switches to Virgo. So for a year and a half until July 2026, we're figuring out Pisces, the ether, the mysticism of everything, and the oneness, the all there is, the ways we're all interconnected, even though we're all still celebrated for our individuality, right? Like the fact that you and I can be so individual is a uniting factor itself, that we get this autonomy, like that. The fact that we have that is a uniting factor, even though we're different people. So I think people are going to be realizing more of that, like collective consciousness that Pisces brings.
I bet that's going to come through science.
I think so too, because Pluto in Aquarius, it rules science. Like there's fundamental transformations coming through science. But also science's acceptance of spirituality and these things that we consider to be mystical or magical becoming workable all of a sudden, like that, the Google quantum chip thing that they just announced, was like, I don't honestly know enough about it to be able to talk about it that well, but like, I know that that's like broken a lot of ground.
Well, also I know Vice, who is it? Vice, the one that I'll always say this, Vice, the one that doesn't hire any women over 30, that place, right? I always have to put in my feminist amount there. They just wrote an article that there may be really small black holes in your house, like not outer space. And that now all the people that sounded nuts talking about portals, that's
totally
right.
Did you even see like what I think it was early November when they did the alien like briefing in front of Congress, another one, but it was like televised, everybody could see it. I did a deep dive like on this, and it might have been October. But I did a real big deep dive because I was going back to like all alien disclosure, whistleblowing situations and like tying the astrology together. And that's why I put astrology or aliens in my slideshow. And they, in one of the things, there was like a document that was like hundreds of pages long. And I read through everything. It was basically like every whistleblower, official government, like testimony that we've had in America. And one of them talked about that, how there's like portals, how we already have like some sort of like space-time rip on Earth that goes to Mars, and that like we've actually ripped open space-time enough that that's actually kind of a chaotic mess, and it's like just a matter of time before we start like actually messing with stuff. So we need to work with it now. Like that you can kind of like screw with space-time. So like I don't know. I think all this is coinciding with science getting a hold of this and figuring out how to work with it. So much is going to change. It's like, I feel so stupid talking about electric vehicles when I'm like, but really where we're moving is teleportation. So why are we talking about it?
Right. I think you're right on that. I think that's correct. It's funny. I have to say this. I do not know why, but I have such a strong pull towards iridology, which is the study of you start to know all about the iris of the eye, and you can tell like, oh, your kidneys are off because this area, blah blah blah, and it's a medical thing, which I'm not a medicine person, but I am so drawn to this. And it's weird because when you were saying about they know so much about your eye, it's like maybe I was like, why would I get another job that is hard to get people? Like, who's looking for an iridologist? Why would you do that? Maybe this is where we're going with this stuff.
That is so interesting. And also just like the spiritual nature of eyes showing up everywhere, right? Like, nebulas look like eyeballs in space. Like, it's like crazy. And that to me totally ties into something else where that whole end of Pisces, start of Aries being this hot part of the zodiac, not only with the North Node, not only with Neptune and Saturn, but also in March and April, Venus and Mercury are going to retrograde over it. They both move into Aries, then retrograde back to Pisces, then go back into Aries. So there's a clear, and that's personal. Those are very close moving planets that we feel. So there's a clear, like, I'm entering a new era. Wait, I'm going back to like what I knew and what was comfortable. And like, what do I want to bring with me? I forgot something. And now we're going to move forward finally in April of next year individually. But with that, like, I am predicting next year, like one of my predictions, I don't know how else to explain it. Just, I think that seeing the Apple Vision Pro kind of I just never thought I could see something like that. I feel like it won't be this. I don't know though, but something like we see a color that we didn't know existed before, like that type of scientific breakthrough. Like, and so that's your eye comment that makes sense for me. Or even like, I guess on a more mundane level, like because Venus rules aesthetics and colors and our relationship to all that stuff and how everything's getting more individualized, I could see like a whole new sense of style coming out that we've just literally never seen. It feels like, when steampunk became a thing, like that was a whole new style and aesthetic. And it feels like we're just a mishmash of everything that's already happened, and we are. But I feel like something new that we've just never seen visually is going to come forward next year. I totally believe that.
Well, it's interesting about the, I had a really good thought. Hold on, I'm going to pause this because this thought was really good. Hold on. Okay, so you were talking about new colors. So when you're doing a paranormal investigation, you have an all-spec camera, and that camera sees colors that the natural eye doesn't. And it is modeled after the eye of a cat, because you know how your pets see things that you don't, they're barking at, and they're so very interesting that, with that Apple thing, they could come up with a ghost cam that sees ghosts.
Totally. That's exactly. Or like a way to like, for technology to be able to imitate like a cat eye, what they see, and then translate that to our vision, somehow. I don't know how.
I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it.
I'm signing up for my audiology class now because I think I'm on the edge of something here.
I do too, though. Actually, I really do too. I think our eyes becoming incredibly important, which, sorry to any blind listeners you have here. I don't know what to say.
Well, and their iris might, I truly wonder, because somebody was telling me about a hearing implant. If they could do away with blindness and deafness, I think the world, I was so sad. I just found out Huey Lewis isn't making music anymore because he went deaf. Can you imagine giving Huey Lewis the gift back of his hearing?
Oh my God, yeah.
And I think we are close. That is going to be that great stuff about AI that could give us that back. But I think you're right. Somebody's figuring it out. And that might be the positive part of AI.
Oh my God, totally. I think that would be lovely. It's like those little kid videos where they're basically deaf and they've never heard their parents' voice, and then they put that thing in their ear, and those really sad videos. They're not sad, they're joyful, but make you cry.
And I hope all of this is going to happen outside the government by nice spiritual people who pay all their employees. That's what I want. Now I'm excited, Ryan. I was sad. Now I'm excited.
Yeah, no. I think there's really, really, really good stuff happening next year. I do think the first half of the year is like a little more rocky and like, oh God, adjust. Like the best thing I could tell people, the advice I have is to not why I think there's the anchor in the ether feeling is because what's happening on the ground is shaky, and it's going to force you to pivot, and you need to be ready to do that. But the best way to know which direction to go next when the time calls for it is to have a spiritual guidance system, that compass somewhere bigger than you, so you feel like you're still full of direction, even though you got to change everything all of a sudden. So, companies and people need to be ready to pivot throughout the whole first half of the year, I think. But then the second half of the year, I think we're finding some weird rhythm and comfort in the changes that are taking place.
You know what's interesting also about that is, like I found a retirement calculator where you put in what you make and how much you should if you want this much to retire, and it turns out I'm fine as long as I use the Mayan calendar. Hey, folks, I'll be here all week. Uh, but I hope, and maybe there's a place better than Kickstarter where we could invest in that instead of going to the stock market, invest in the company directly.
Oh my God, yeah. No, that's exactly where I think it's totally going. Same thing
And
with
no government involved, none.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing they can do to stop it unless, they try to stop it like they're trying to do with TikTok, which also I don't know if that's going to happen either, because that's another good thing I have to give him credit for. He's said, I like TikTok. It's got a special place in my heart. I won the youth vote probably because of TikTok. Why would he want to get rid of this?
I know. Well, I have a feeling I pulled a card and I pulled delay. So it's going to delay. But also, somebody else could come in and donate $1 million to something for him and it's gone.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So, obviously these old systems of government could still restrict, but I think the people are innovating. The power really is to the people. That's Pluto and Aquarius. So I think will have an ability to pivot way faster individually than large structures and governments that have to follow all these rules and go through these processes, right? We'll be changing things as needed. And I totally empower people to do that. I love that. It's the same thing like the thing on TikTok, that was happening a year ago where people were just paying off other people's debt. You know what I mean? That sort of community aid, or supporting who you can. And it was people were just giving $1, and then somebody's debt was paid off. And if enough people just did that, you made somebody debt free. We could make that kind of change, but it does take collective action.
I knew someone that was having trouble with a dog and couldn't pay for, and I was like, just go on TikTok and say, hey, can everybody send me $1? And she's like, I don't know TikTok, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I would give $1. I don't care about losing $1. And it's I think you're right. I think the resources are out there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because it doesn't take much on an individual end to create this mass change. The more we see those models taking place, the more we realize the way we can apply it in so many other ways.
Awesome. Okay, we're almost there, Ryan. Anything we missed? Any big thing?
The only other thing I would say is just more on a global end is that environmental issues probably will continue to be problematic. Obviously, science is showing that, but the astrology will show it as well. And I think that there's a need. There's such a watery feeling. So I think that there's just a need, especially if I had to pick an element to take care of, I would say take care of the water, as best as we can. Water conservation might be more important. The, Great Pacific dumpster, whatever that they call it. How do we get trash out of the ocean? Take care of sea life more. Water and air are the two elements that are now kind of in power.
That's funny. I kept seeing big waves with no storm. So I was like, that sounds like a tsunami. And then the other thing that was weird, I saw weird lightning. And that might be tornadoes or something, but a different kind of lightning is what I thought. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of people are thinking those little balls of light are that are kind of accompanying the drones right now. Some people are calling them plasmoids, but actually it's something called ball lightning. Or I don't know if it's actually that, but that's a theory that it's ball lightning, which is literally a ball of lightning. There's also a book called Ball Lightning for anybody who's interested.
Good for me. I thought I was out on a limb with that. Okay.
No, yeah, it's an actual phenomenon, yeah.
Okay, Ryan, anything else? But I have to say, you really cheered me up because I think the focus off of what government is doing to us and the focus on ignoring them until they shrivel up like an old prune.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. I'm good. I just want to, I feel good. I hope that made you happier. I think everybody just needs to take it into their own power to do what they can do individually. We have to be there for each other because the government is not there for us. I think everybody's united on that now. And they'll see it, even if there's people disillusioned by the Republicans and they think that Trump's, God's gift to America right now or something. the good thing to me about the Republicans winning in a landslide is they now can no longer blame anything on the Democrats or gridlock or whatever, right?
Give them rope, hand them more rope.
Yeah. So we gotta do what we can in our own individual ways, and I think that we can all do that.
That is awesome. All right, are you doing readings again, Ryan? I thought you were kind of shut down for a while.
I was going through some stuff. I'm online. Yes. RyansAstrology.com. I also have my 2025 Bismos calendar out, and it is like jam packed. Like if anybody had my 2024 calendar, this is way more stuff in it. So much more. So you can get that at bismosceo.com, or you can navigate through my website.
And I'm going to tell somebody, this calendar is so good. And if you are on Apple Calendar, what you want to do when you download it, you want to make it its own calendar. And I'm going to explain why. Because mine is like, I have my astrology calendar, which is that. And I can turn it on and off. So I can look at my full schedule, and then I can click that. And so that it's not all in one. So there's not a lot. And then it's freaking amazing.
Yeah. I recommend that too, for sure.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Look at that. New things are coming. You can, I'm going to be able to drive at night. Woohoo. Maybe drive my spaceship. Woohoo. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Folks, I do actually have my calendar of shows on my website. So you can go at the top where it says psychic stand-up. Where it says comedy. It says upcoming shows. Click on that. I'd love to see you at a show. I have, I'm just saying this. If you want this, email me. I haven't quite got it on my site yet, but I have a small $20 or $22 because it's $2 shipping. Yes or no deck that is funny. It's got a joke on each one. And I'm currently making a completely offensive yes or no deck. I will let you know when that's out. You can buy that one too. All right, everybody, have a great day.
Paranormal Karen, she's a spooky kind of queen. Paranormal Karen, she's an angel without wings. Comedian, ghost hunter, conscious exploring. She's a funny gal and a real woo pal. She's Paranormal Karen.